Today we are on the steering system for the 1965 Ranchero. We have all of our parts in from Autocrafters to do that, so we're going to go ahead and get the steering system back in so that we can move this thing around the shop without having to have two people on it, one on each tire, to direct them as to where they need to go. So that's what we're going to be working on today, if everything goes according to plan. That's always the scary part. Restoration of a classic Ford is a journey of discovery. Let Autocrafters help you with yours. We offer quality parts for Falcon, Fairlane, F-Series, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto. Contact us today. All right, so what I've got here on the table is the drag link assembly that we're using in our 65 Ranchero. Now, Ford went to this in about late to mid 1964 on the 64 Falcon. You'll know whether you have this system because you'll see this type of inner tie rod end with a very short outer tie rod end and a short adjuster sleeve. What I'm showing you right now is the stuff off of the Ranchero itself. Now this is 6-cylinder, but the V8 stuff isn't really any different than that. So this is what you want to see. If you've got this, you're good to go on your drag link and your Pitman arm. If you have the other stuff, you're going to have to change out for everything you see here on the table. Different Pitman arm. Basically this is Falcon and Mustang, and the drag link is a Falcon specific drag link. And the tie rod ends and adjuster sleeves, inner and outer, that's all Mustang. But what I like about the 65 system is it's a lot better for handling. This system deals better with different road undulations and things like that, has a lot less inherent bump steer than you would see in a 64 on back Falcon system. If I'm going to do this, to be honest with you, even on an earlier car, I would update it to this and go that way, because now you can get the spindles, which are on the car behind me. You can get everything you want to change this thing over to a V8 front end if you want to do that, with the exception of torque boxes. Those still aren't available. What I'm going to show you right now, though, is something that we do around here when we're setting up a front end. What we'll do is we'll do these inner and outer tie rod ends on the table first. We'll go ahead and start them off. I can roll it over here so you can see the cavity here. We'll put about 2 to 3 threads on both sides of these. This is a right-hand thread, this is a left-hand thread, and they do that so that you can just turn this and pull it in or push it out as needed. And then we will put them on the car, and then we will adjust everything into the correct position from there. Anytime you turn the one side, let's say you're doing the passenger side of the car, you turn that one 6 turns, you go immediately over to the driver's side and you turn that one out 6 turns so that you're adjusting them at the same time, because otherwise you'll have a weird front end setup. You'll want to have a good, solid, centered system, and the best way to get there for the alignment shop when you take it there, or if you do the alignment yourself, is to start off like we do with this setup this way. All right, this is the steering box that we're going to be using on our 1965 Ranchero. This is a 16:1 box with a 39-inch shaft, which is correct for Falcon. If you want to see me talk ad nauseum about that, go check out the video that I've got written down below me here, or go to the description below and there's a direct link to it. But what I'm going to talk about with 16:1 ratio boxes right now is steering effort at low speed. The quicker the ratio, the more steering effort you're going to experience when you're turning the car at low speeds, particularly if you put big tires on it and put enough caster in it to make it to where it's actually going to handle decent. There's a couple of things you can do to make that better. One thing is to go to a larger wheel. If you start going to a 14 or a 13-inch wheel, the smaller that wheel is, the harder that steering system is going to be to turn at low speed, because this is your lever. Basically, your steering wheel is your lever. So the bigger the steering wheel is, the better your turning effort is going to be at low speed. Now, mind you, you don't want to have a ship's wheel from a riverboat on your car, but a 15-inch wheel is not a bad idea. It does have the problem of possibly impeding our male figures. Those of us that are well endowed in that direction and drink a couple more beers than we probably should will maybe experience a little bit of wheel tuck on the front end of us, not the car. And so what you might want to do then is to possibly back down to a 14-inch wheel and do what we're doing on this car, which is a idler arm from the guys at Open Tracker Racing. I'm showing you a little bit of a picture of it here. This idler arm is a roller bearing idler arm. It is not the vulcanized rubber style that Ford put on these cars originally. The roller idler arm, when well greased and set up, what it will do is it will actually make steering a little bit easier at low speed than it would be with the vulcanized style, because what's going on with the idler arm is you're actually fighting the vulcanization of the rubber to the steel shaft in the center, and it kind of makes it a little bit harder to get it to turn. With the roller bearing system that they use on the Open Tracker setup, you don't have that issue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just going to put all this stuff in there so you can see how everything lays out. We are not done. This is going to be something where I install the parts for you, and then we blow it back apart to put all the stuff on there, like paint everything and get everything ready. But I do want to show you how everything bolts up and where everything goes and how some of this stuff sets up. Steering box goes in first. All right, now from all I have heard, there is absolutely no way to put these steering boxes that I have trying to kill my stomach in with the engine in the car. I've been told several times by people that it's just not a doer. I kind of believe it from looking at this. This bar is actually right in the way in some respects too. But I'm going to try getting this thing up in here as tight to the frame rail as I possibly can, just to see if we can do this. You're going to have to go in through the big hole up at the top here. And the problem you run into is you have to start from way back here underneath the car and get it to go through there. Now there is sheet steel here on a plate. It looks like this plate can probably be removed. I'm going to see if we don't need that though. We can do that and try to keep this thing as tight to the frame rail as we can. And this is the problem you run into, is trying to get everything to fly in with the rest of it. See, I'm running into the dash panel right now. Got Logan running in to help here. What am I doing? See that little dip in the dash? It may be that we have to take your cross brace out of this car for right now in order to get this thing to go in there. Well, the only other thing I can see is that I can come in over the top this way. That's probably what I'm going to have to do, is come in from the top of it. This is why on a Falcon you can't put this thing in here with the engine in, because it looks like to me that the only thing you can really do is this there, and then drop it into position. I'm going to get a couple bolts started. I'm not going to fully install this thing, but I do want to get a bolt or two started. This is why I like fresh fasteners on fresh parts. These are old bolts that we had around that we are reusing. Now that's enough for us to hold it in place where it's supposed to be at. You really do have to come in from up here and throw it up into position. Now I really think that if we didn't have our engine cross brace in here, the X brace, this probably wouldn't be as big a problem to come in low, but I don't see how you could really do that. And with the V8 engine in here, with a 6, yes, it's possible. With the V8, no, you're not going to do it, because it does pull in pretty tight over here on the shock tower. Without the engine in, it's a breeze. We just did it, and you know, I've never put one in a Falcon before. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up just a little bit, and then we're going to move on through the rest of the steering system on the car. I'm going to take my nut off here, get ready to roll with it. All right, now I'm going ahead and tightening this thing down so that we can move the car around, but I'm not going to do this for final. What I want to say is we're going to put torque specs for all of the fasteners on the steering system in the description below, so you'll be able to find that by going down underneath the title, underneath the video. Some guys don't actually know where the description is, but it's down there. Links to parts will be in there as well. All right, so now we've already put our idler arm in. I wanted to talk about one thing on this. We got the idler arm fasteners from the guys at Autocrafters. These are better to use than just stock nuts and bolts, because this is actually a locking nut. This is what Ford did with this originally. So your depths are nice, everything's the way it should be. Recommend getting these whenever you're replacing everything on the front end or you're doing a new setup like we are here. We're going to want our idler arm to be sitting straight, and then we'll come in here now and pull the Pitman arm and everything in to put it on the steering box. We want our drag link to come in first. All right, I've already set my drag link up a little bit. I've got my Pitman arm on my drag link with the nut just kind of loosely sitting there. The Pitman arm on these is splined, and so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you set this thing up. Now there's the yellow marks that are on the steering box. I'm showing you that right now. So you're going to want to try to find the Pitman arm correct position with the open spot and the splining to go on the steering box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the Pitman arm on here. I'm going to put my drag link on the idler arm first and throw the nut on there just so it doesn't leave while I'm working on it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and come over here and see if I can get this thing to line up. Now this is always a lot of fun. You're wanting to try to get that splining lined up on here. Now it won't go on until you're in the right spot, like I am now in the right spot. And I'm going to put temporarily the provided nut on here because I don't think I'm going to have enough room for the, well, yeah, we will. I'm not going to put the washer on there, I don't think. Oh, here. Logan brought me a washer. Yep. Washer's not going to go on there right now. We need to put the nut on here temporarily to allow us to tighten everything down by hand to get this to insert on there. Because right now it's not going to go on really well. I want to set it on there and get it to line up a little bit. All right, so this is a 1 1/8 inch nut. And I am not going to bore you with doing this, but you're just going to want to spin this thing on until it seats. You'll be at this in a minute. And you're probably going to have to let it just go all the way over to the side in order for it to set correctly, like that. All right, I've got my tie rod in assembly here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the outside first, and just set it, and then put the nut on it if I can get to it, just to hold it in place. Now, obviously, this is not your final position for tie rods. This is just for installation. Some of these newer things are not binding the boot to the tie rod ends like they used to. They're a squish fit, which is fine. And I'm just going to put that in there, and again, not really hard set anything, but just set it up so that we can make our adjustments later. Now going to do the same thing on the other side. Now one of the things you want to do with this before you start making your adjustments is kind of make sure that your drag link center line positions for these are in the same basic spot on here. You want your idler arm to be pretty much straight, and then these two should be lined up on the chassis in a central spot. All right, now what I'm doing is just doing a measurement from the bevel, the end of the bevel on the inner tie rod end to the center point of the outer tie rod end, and we're right at, let's see, let me get it right here. We're right at 10 7/8 on the length of this. Now what I'll do is I took just a generalized measure to show you that. What we're going to do is we're going to spin this one all the way in, and then go to the other side and take the same measure over there and spin it into that point. This really only works though if you've done what we started off with, which is go in and set the tie rods up first with the spindle as turned out as it is now, and then you just walk everything into position, go to the other side and do the same thing. All right, so I'm going to show you something real quick. If you want to make sure that you got a semi-straight front end before you take it to an alignment shop, or if you're just going to be rolling it around inside the yard area where you're working on the car and you want to be able to make sure you're not working yourself to death trying to push it, you can go in and find a flat surface. Now this can be the shields for the rotors, it can be the brake drum, but you want to be able to get something high enough that you can measure to the frame rail. The frame rail on these cars is your straight point. So you're going to want to be able to measure to here. We're at 9.5 on the front of the spindle. And we should be right around that on the back of the spindle as well. You're just going to have to trust me on this one. So I'm going to put this back here, flatten it out on the spindle point itself. Set it in there, and we are at a little over that. We're actually on this side, we have 1/16 inch of toe, which is pretty typical for what you want to do with one of these cars. So that's really it. That's how this works. This suspension will need an engine in it for it to sit down where it needs to be to do final adjustments on tie rods and all that kind of stuff. So none of this stuff is final tightened in. Even the upper control arms are tight, but they're not tightened up for final. Just simply because we have to get an engine and all the weight on the front of this car before we can go in and do an alignment on it. Do me a favor on aligning things. Go ahead and check out our Patreon account. At the $10 a month level, you get monthly meetings with me, and names are going up, I think, over here. Pretty sure. This is a way to support the kids that come in here on Saturdays. We work with the youth in our area, teaching them how to use cameras, how to work on cars and things like that. So it is kind of a worthy cause. It helps buy the pizzas, but more importantly, it helps Andrew make his wage, because I'm trying to teach these kids that you can't do something without making some money at it. And so he can't work as much if we don't have you guys helping us on Patreon. So that's a good way to support the show. If we've given you anything at all in tech stuff and helped you out, maybe go out and think about doing that support. It's not required. You don't have to do anything like that. I'm not pressuring you to send in money. We have people that get pissy about that. Also, subscribe to the channel. We are on our march to 100,000 subscribers. Very soon we should be there. We're at 93,000 right now pretty much, and we are moving pretty quickly along. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's coming. So when we do that, the Paul wall back behind me over my shoulder here will get the plaque. That by then will probably be a PDF file or something that they send you with good wishes. Who knows? But do me a favor. Be kind to each other, love each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on down the road. So, lots to do. Oh, I have a little song for you I'm going to play, probably starting here. This is what happens when you let adults play with cars. We become children. Don't tell my wife I said that. Oh, wait. She watches the show.